Hello everyone, welcome back. Shoes here, This Irish Life. Hope you're all doing great. We will jump in straight away to part 2 of episode 8. We're going to go straight in and we're going to carry on with St. Patrick. This is what we discussed in part 1. We had some interesting architecture. We had a lot of stories. A little bit about St. Patrick. Said he came from the 5th century. He's reputed to be a couple of different people. There's 2 Patricks. We looked at Galway. We reinforced the fact that we're living in a starfort world. We're living in a star world. And this gentleman here played a gigantic part. That is an epic beard. That is an epic beard, now I must say. Look at that. Like, I like a beard. And I appreciate that beard, Patrick. I certainly do. Some man for the beard. So there's years in that. 120 years. 120 years old, they said. Sure, of course. I actually had that window ready to go. I've got a double one. We'll get rid of that one. So, we're going to carry on with St. Patrick. And what's next? Part 2. Legends. Let's talk about some legends of St. Patrick. Legend credits Patrick with teaching the Irish about the doctrine of the Holy Trinity by showing the people the shamrock. The people were so stupid, apparently, they needed to know about the shamrock to get the idea of Jesus, Mary, and God. Right, okay. This is like common. We learned this in school. The shamrock is a 3-headed plant, and he used it to illustrate the Christian teaching of 3 persons in one God. So the 3 in 1 again. It's always the 3 in 1. It's like almost like their calling card. They pretend to be 3 people. Maybe it's a good way to track them down. We'll keep that in mind for the special on the different races. So 1726 is when the story appears. So one thing to, I think, consider as well that is often not considered is that the tales of myth and legend of Ireland, which are said to have happened, thousands of years ago. Obviously, we're putting the events of Firbolg and Tuatha Dé Danann in the last 1,000 years. We're putting it all into that. We're saying that 500 years ago, these guys could have been around. Because of the freshness of the masonry and the stories and the way the battles and the takeover seems to have gone. So we have good reason to have that assumption. So St. Patrick, he did use the shamrock regularly, and we've discussed that is the shamrock related to the Morrigan and Eru, which is the triple goddess. It's another 3 in 1. Eru, Banba, Fowla, also Bab, Vaca, and Maeve. And we're actually going to look at Vaca again, and we're going to consider that Vaca is Taltu. I think that we're going to have to say that Taltu is Boan, is Eru. I have a feeling they're all the same person. And the reason I say that is because Taltu was in the area of just above Navan, and the name of Navan is the same as Own Vaca in Armagh, which is related to Vaca, who is one of the Morrigan. So I think that Taltu could well be Maca as well. Just to add a little spice to the mix, as if we need any more confusion. So another myth and legend. Patrick banished all the snakes from Ireland. So a um, common YouTube hit topic the last 15 years, as long as YouTube is around and kicking, is that St. Patrick banished all the snakes from Ireland. And this is probably what he's most well known for. But in our mind, we're probably thinking of the snakes as being the old gods, the old inhabitant, the Fear Bullock, the Tuatha De Danann, the Fomorians. He banished them, but he was one of them, but he banished them, if you know what I mean. And they went underground then, in the stories of the Milesians taking over. So that's why the story of Patrick and the story of the Milesians, they mirror each other very, very closely, as we're going to see. They're almost identical in many ways. So a very popular YouTube video is the stories of St. Patrick banishing snakes. They talk about the people of the serpent, people of the snake. You could go into all that symbology for forever and ever and ever. I don't know. I don't know. And it's not going to be something that we're going to go into in this video. There's plenty of information out there on that. The earliest written record of a legend about Patrick ridding Ireland of venomous creatures dates to the 13th century by Gerald of Wales, who expressed scepticism about the veracity of the story. The more familiar version of the legend is given by Jocelyn of Furness, who says that the snakes had all been banished by Patrick chasing them into the sea after they attacked him during a 40-day fast that he was undertaking on top of a hill. So 40 days in the 40 nights in the desert, the whole Jesus story, that mirrors that. The snakes going to the sea, there's certainly potential in that. Going back to the sea people, they had forts under the sea, no doubt, underground tunnels under the fort, the original roots maybe of the trees, the underground systems where the trains run. There's also underground systems everywhere in the cities that are not used. So there's a massive underground network underneath the mud. An area like, we can't even imagine how big this was a megalopolis of stars. This was beyond imagination. It was a megalopolis of stars all over the place. All over the place. Same here. Even like we're missing a lot of land here. Like you wouldn't know that maybe there was people all over here. Who knows? But St. Patrick anyway, back to St. Patrick. Ireland never had snakes though. Like as in the snake, the creature, the wriggly creature snake. Ireland never had them. So Patrick banishes the snakes. That's another myth. Fond one. Legend holds that as he returned to his Irish mission, strong winds swept Patrick's boat into Strangford Lough. Landing at Sol, he cannily converted the local chief Dicu, his hard-won competence in the Irish language helping him here. In return, he was granted a barn that became Ireland's first Christian church. I wonder what kind of a barn it really was. The barn was probably some sort of massive castle that they called a barn. After they just turned castle to barn. After visiting a beautiful little church, we rambled up the crest of Patrick's Hill to gaze upon the world's tallest statue of the Apostle, while enjoying magnificent views over Strangford Lough and the Mourne Mountains. And this is places of Patrick, actually. This isn't a myth. This is a place where St. Patrick is related to. So in County Down, which is up here, Strangford Lough, Oh, it's in the UK, is it? UK gets the honour of having Strangford Lough. Of course, sure, it's Northern Ireland. The Strangford Lough, that's a fort there, 100% I'd say. No doubt about it. Really zoomed me in there, didn't it? So lots of islands here, Strangford Lough. So this is where St. Patrick supposedly, so he came up here. So this was the fort, this was a fort, this was a position. County Down is up here, massive city here. But this is supposedly where St. Patrick came to land in Ireland. So on his mission, strong winds swept him into the loch, landed at Sol, converted the local chief. Isn't that a lovely tale? Downpatrick's where he's buried. So was Patrick from here? Was this his fort? So did he come from here? This was where he was hanging out. This is where he lived. This is where his well was. These are probably forts there as well. Like this was probably his one. Bangor. I mean, Bell is right beside Belfast, which is, a hotbed, an absolute hotbed of conflict. So there's so much about this. Like St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, is all like I've never even considered it, but the fact that like so much in Northern Ireland is named after him. There's such a rich history in the fact that it's still owned by England. It's hilarious, and it's totally English up there for anyone who's never been to Northern Ireland. It is the UK. It's like signpost the whole lot. But this is where Patrick came into Ireland. It's probably a star fort. They're all star forts there. Dirty. All these here. Forts. Probably. That's England. These were probably connected by canals. Channel Tunnel was a massive underground tunnel, always there. It's down below, over this way. Anyway, next, where we've really zoomed out, we've really broadened our horizons, which isn't a bad thing either. It adds a bit of spice. We've been looking into the ground all day long. Another myth about St. Patrick, his walking stick grows into a living tree. Some legends involve the Ullafeist, the Cuireannach and the Capog Fádrig during his evangelizing journey back to Ireland from his parents' home. He is understood to have carried with him an ash wood walking stick or staff. He thrust his stick into the ground wherever he was evangelizing, and at the place now known as Patria, Ash of Patrick, the message of dogma took so long to get through to the people that the stick had taken root by the time he was ready to move on. Do not get that story at all. I'm not going to waste any more time thinking about it. Patrick speaks with ancient Irish ancestors, 12th century. Patrick's met by, oh yes, so Patrick is around at the same time as two ancient Irish warriors, okay? So once again, we're at the time where the demigods is Fionn McCool and the Fianna. They're all the demigods. Cuchulainn. So Patrick, there's a story about Patrick being met by Calcha MacRonan and Oisin. It could be the Oisin who was in Tirnanog and he fell off the horse and he aged. And there's a whole story there. During his evangelical travels, two were once members of Fionn McCool's warrior band of the Fianna. So these lads were part of Fionn McCool's band of the Fianna. There's a story about Fionn McCool and Ben Bulben, actually, that Ben Bulben is a place where the wife, so Fionn McCool was arranged to marry a woman, I can't remember her name, she's a beautiful woman, and he was old at the time and she didn't want to marry him, and she ran off at the wedding day with a young lad who was in the Fianna. We'll come across the story soon. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And then they ran up to Ben Bulben. So they obviously ran to the fortress in Ben Bulben and hid there. And Fionn McCool, he forgave them, but then this lad was killed by a boar when he was out hunting. And Fionn McCool had the power to heal him, but he didn't because he was still kind of odd because he stole his wife. And then the woman, I think she may have also, did she die of heartbreak? I don't know. Anyway, there you go. St. Patrick met with members of the Fianna who are demigods. Fianna were the heroes. They're the heroes. They're like Hercules. They're the guys who went on epic adventures. They were some serious dudes. So once again, Patrick knocking around with possible giants. Fionn McCool's meant to be a giant. He's meant to be buried actually in a mountain. So Fionn McCool probably had his own fort. Where's Fionn? Like there's a mountain that's said to be Fionn McCool. I'll find that at some stage. But that's probably his fort or his well. So in another story, somebody said he landed in Wicklow at the mouth of the river Inverness. And maybe he did, as in once again, like I know that it's ridiculous to consider, but is there a possibility that there was multiple Patricks? Is it possible that there was multiple everyone's? Like who knows what kind of weird world it was? Maybe it was really weird. And you could have multiple goals, multiple player games going on at the same time. I don't know. It's one to consider. Let's not dismiss it. I think you've got to, like, if they're talking about raising the dead in the myths of Ireland, with Dean Cacht raising the dead in the Well of Slain, and the miracles of the wells for healing, we cannot dismiss that they were able to reboot like in a computer game and just come back again. It's like, whoa, I was out there, now I'm back. I'm in the game. But maybe you didn't have to die to be rebooted. Maybe you could reboot yourself a couple of times. So maybe like there's a couple of Patricks going around. Like there was a couple of Jesuses, there was a couple of Vishnus, a couple of Krishnas. If you go into the Indian mythology, there was a couple of them knocking around. So maybe they had so many bodies knocking around for so many years that there was just loads of them. And they were all like kind of the same person, but just elements of the same person. So like the Dagda, like maybe there was 100 Dagdas knocking around. Who knows? I know that's very out there to consider. But I think that in these conversations we have to go that far out there to come back a little bit to the truth, do we? It can't be dismissed anyway. It certainly can't be dismissed that they had the power to reboot Ready Player One style back in the game. So these people were joining Patrick's group. So he was able to, he rounded up a couple of people. So this said he came in at Wicklow. That would he'd be up to Slane then soon enough if he came in at Wicklow. They're close by each other. Another place where Patrick is associated with is this mountain here called Schlemish, which I would venture to say is probably some sort of a giant ziggurat type of a thing. We're not going to go down there right now. Schlemish is in County Antrim. And this is the hill that's associated forever with Patrick, lying about 35 miles north of Belfast. According to the mythology, Patrick was enslaved to Milcu, so meal, and worked as a herdsman on these slopes. That's such a hilarious story. Maybe he was enslaved at the time. We wouldn't know. They were all enslaving each other back in these old tales, in the mythology even. Perhaps it was here that he came to understand the power of symbolism of high places. But this here, Slemish, County Antrim, is, I would have to say, is a fort. Or not a fort, well, fortification, fortress. I don't even know what to call them. See, when there's no word, it's so interesting. There's no word to describe these things, so I can't describe it. And when we talk about ancient myths and them trying to describe like sky chariots, I'm trying to describe a sky chariot here, but I'm trying to describe what I'm seeing on the ground. But I don't have the word to say what it is. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's a combination of things. Slemish Mountain, Ballymena. So we'll just have a quick look. So Patrick was said to have been so he was enslaved in this mountain. Slemish car park. Look at that there. That's it. Look at this. Just rising up, all the canals buried. Just mountains of dirt and bog and muck. Just here. So we're like masonry. I think so. Oh, tree. Real tree. No petrified trees anymore. Look at this. Big boulders coming down. Fortification, no doubt. Absolutely. Based on what I've seen already. I mean, look at this here. And you know what? Actually, it's so, now that I'm remembering, when I drive the motorway from Cork to Dublin, as I pass through the Curragh, which is obviously a massive star fort, owned by the army, of course, and I drive through there, I always looked over at these little mounds, like 3 or 4 hills over to the left. So if you're going from Cork to Dublin, I always see them on the way back because I'm on that side of the road. So if you're driving from Dublin to Cork and you come out from kind of Naas and you're hitting the Curragh, and you look to your left, there is loads of odd mounds just bouncing up out of the ground. And I couldn't figure out. It was like, they don't look like anything at all. And sure, of course they don't, because it's massive infrastructure. Like, once again here, like, these are not mountains. These mounds are fortresses. Like, Slemish, this is where St. Patrick had a good time with Slemish. On this hill, Patrick was a slave at Slemish. It's a shame now that won't load nicely, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to spend too much time here. But once again, another example, and here beside it, like, this is all covered. We're not going to try and make out stairs, but look, you don't even need to try. You don't even need to try. It's there. We've got another. We've got something here. We've got something here. We've got something here. And St. Patrick was really associated with this place. And this is just hill, mountain land. So St. Patrick associated with Slemish in County Antrim. So Patrick was getting about, like, in 5th century Ireland, he's getting about. This place is associated with St. Patrick, Slemish, County Antrim, and Killala Bay in County Mayo. When captured by raiders, there are 2 theories as to where Patrick was enslaved. One theory is he herded sheep in the countryside around Slemish. The other is that he herded sheep near Killala Bay, in a place near Fochel. Can we find Fochel? Near Killala. So Killala is back. So where is this here now? This is up high, like, this is high up in Ireland. That's the top of Ireland. No, that's the side. No, it's close to the top. It is definitely. Turn around. Isn't that just amazing? I mean, imagine all of these here, just these all fortresses. Just have to have a little look in from the side. And then you've got the rivers through them. Nah, too long. We need to go to we're going to go to Killala. We're not even going to try to get out of an epic landscape of stars fills the screen. So I need to get this over to here, fix this up and get going and get cracking. Play. Where did it say Patrick was there now? Where was Patrick? He was in Killala and a place called Focal. Focal is the place where he was. So we're going to have a look for Focal. Near Killala. So Patrick was getting around a lot of places. He lived for 120 years. Can't find Focal. Killala it is. Let's go to Killala and let's get there fast. So I just put that up there just as a little reminder again, just of what we saw, even the shape in the ground up there in Slemish, you know. So here we go in Killala. And this is an area that we looked at before. And this is an area where a large section of the map has actually fallen off as well. I wonder, do I have that map handy? Because it is rather excellent. But anyway, Patrick was in Killala. How are we looking for time? 28. Sorry, no, I'm just getting the bearings here. So we're looking at all these fortifications here, like all of this is just covered. Like there's no reason to think that there was anything natural left. This was a fully starred up, it was fully paved. So St. Patrick was over here in Killala. There's not much going on in Killala these days, but this used to be a big lake, and we've got Moyne Abbey here next to where St. Patrick was meant to have been staying. We've got Rosserk Friary also here. We've got the ruins of an Augustinian abbey here, which we've looked at in previous episodes as well. We've got Eru Abbey, which is on a little island here in the middle of this lake, which is, I'm not sure the name of that lake, but whatever it is. We might get it there now. It might be friendly to us. Give us the name of the lake. So, like, we're really saying that this area here is, like, that was serious. There was a lot going on here. If that's all covered, like this was Fomorian territory as well. This is where the battles took place. This is where the tales of Mai Tara, as we know from the earlier episodes. Look at all this here. Same again. It's just all till and waste. So Killala, St. Patrick was in here doesn't look like it's going to give me the resolution for some of these. So we're not going to spend too much time trying to get there. But I would maybe like to try and see a little photo of one or two of these places. Am I gone to the Ocean Sands Hotel? I am. Maybe a bit of Google Earth or Google on the ground view would be better than the other view. I think the internet is proving to be a little bit pernickety at the moment. So we're going to have to be sparing with the zooming, and maybe we'll have to restart the map, I'd say, is the best plan for it. Restart the map. For the moment, we're going to just, we're not going to restart the map. We're going to carry on looking at some places that St. Patrick visited. Places of Patrick, the Hill of Slane. We've seen the Hill of Slane. Muraku Maku Matheni is highly mythologized 7th century life. Patrick says that Patrick lit a paschal fire on this hilltop in 433 in defiance of High King Lear. It could be King Lear or King Manannán Mac Lir, the Tuatha Dan king, who lived or had a lake in Loch Corrib. So Loch Corrib was named after him. When we've discussed that already. So the story says the fire could not be doused by anyone but Patrick, and it was here that he explained the Holy Trinity using the shamrock. So I think that we're going to chance looking at Slane. We're going to chance it. I don't know, is the internet going to hold up? But we're going to go maps. And we're going to chance Slane here now. Because it will be worth looking at Slane. Where is my views and everything? I need to leave this really load. So the Hill of Slane is over here. I'll leave this view on for a moment. All of these would be old canals. Although we were saying like the roads are the bridges, so there could well have been walking ways or trams or trains on them. Now we're going to pop down Estrada. This is Brunabona, as we'll remember. They're mining the old block. They're mining the slabs. It's so funny, they're mining the limestone slabs. That's what we mine. We mine the concrete of the old world that possibly used to be crystal. So Newgrange, all this area here, this is where the Dagda lived. Slane is here. So after the Brunabona, Slane, so there's a Paschal fire here, Slane, right? And then Tara is, it never shows Tara for some reason. Why is that? Is it that I'm not far enough out? Navan. Like Tara's around here somewhere. Do I not have Tara bookmarked? Surely do. Tara County Meath. Saved in favourites. Right, we're not looking at Tara Hill right now, but we are that's it there. We are trying to see it in relation to Slane, Belper, Dublin here. Right, come on now. Show me the rest of them. So here's Tara. This is Tara here. Oh, I did have Tara. Castleboy. So here's Tara, and then Slane is over here. So St. Patrick lit a fire on the hill of Slane during a time when there was a fire on the hill of Tara and you weren't allowed to do it. And the hill of Slane, as we have seen, has an abbey on top of it, and it is actually a fairly significant fortification. So this is the hill of Slane. This is where Sláine is said to be buried. So Sláine is buried under all the dirt. Is that what they mean when they say that people were buried? As I said, like this here, it's all just, like, all the shapes just become too apparent when you look at it for long enough. But we're looking here, these are sloping up slightly, little bump, little jumps up. But this was a fortification, and there was a fire here for some reason, somewhere. So was that part of it? Like, did everything go on fire when all this happened? When the locks blew, was there a fire involved with it? Like, all the bog stuff is highly flammable, but it's very wet, of course. So I suppose, could you have fire then? Like, look at these. This is just big patterns in the land. But this is the hill of Slane, and it slopes down into the Boyne here. So the Boyne is down here. These over here. Where is the Boyne? I don't know why it's possible to lose your bearings so much. So there's the Boyne, there's the hill of Slane. So all of this side this section here is Sláine's fortification. And the fortification which Patrick, where's that going? Oh, yeah. Fortification which Patrick took over. So this is it here. The buffer, the internet has been cruel today, or this evening. But I think we get the picture. There it is now. Look at these little roads here. These new roads. But this is the hill of Slane. And St. Patrick was up here. Slane, County Meath. Patrick defied the High King. Made a favourable impression on the King, a 10-minute ramble. Let's skip that. Here's a couple of all the places that are named after Patrick. Croke Patrick, County Mayo. You can go through all these. Go through some of these yourselves. Claim that Patrick climbed this mountain and fasted on its summit for the 40 days of Lent. Croke Patrick draws thousands of pilgrims who make the trek. So Croke Patrick is one of the highest mountains in Ireland, and we imagine, in our case, probably some sort of a fortification. Like, look at this now. This looks very mountainous, I must say now, doesn't it? Like the mountains look like mountains. So like if there's forts under these, or like there probably is, I'm at the point now where I'm like I can't see how there was any normal, how there was anything that wasn't starred up, because there's walls everywhere, and if there's walls everywhere, then it's been already, like the masonry's been completed. Like, and I'm looking here again, like Crowpatrick looks like it's a gigantic fort again. Look the way it angles. But these here, it's also, it's not perfect, of course. But like looking at it, it certainly has all those features of just a load of muck, doesn't it? And this is Crowpatrick. So St. Patrick fasted for 40 days and 40 nights here at the summit, apparently. What's it like at the summit? What's it like at the summit of Crowpatrick? And people climb up this in their bare feet every year on a pilgrimage. Like, that's pretty hardcore. But almost for no good reason, potentially. Like, is this just like a buried, once again, I'm lost for words. What is it? It's a fortress, a mega fortress. Is that what we're going to call them? Mega fortresses. Here is St. Patrick up on a pedestal of some sort. As you go up Crowpatrick. So there's a pilgrimage that goes to Crowpatrick, and there's a bit of a story behind it. Like that there now, like that looks solid out. Like if whatever was dumped on this one, it was just melted on. It's not like some of the other ones like Carrickeel and the mounds. Like the mounds look like they were they had dirt on them, but these mountains have, like, it's a different ball game altogether. It's like loads of rocks upon rocks upon rocks everywhere. Like they're the drumlins overlooking Clew Bay. One of the episodes we looked at Clew Bay. These are all drowned, and there's bits of masonry on some of them. So like all of these here, are they all little fortresses? All of them that have just stuff dumped on them. Not dumped on them, sorry. It looks like they've stuff dumped on them, but what we're saying is that the wells blew, and the mining operations blew, something that Philip Dragin mentioned several years ago, I think, even. They opened the locks on them all, and I think that Philip probably had a better grasp of this even then than I probably understood about the Star Force, but he never really went into much detail about like I didn't really, like, I was thinking, yeah, a couple of Star Force, the locks break, but now I understand that, like, if the Star Force are the size, if they're the size of bogs, and if they're under mountains and under massive mounds, and if and if the whole area was paved with heavy masonry, like look at this, like it's all, like all of these are, like these are broken bits of masonry, I would say, like obliterated, like Star Wars style. Well, they did Star Wars in Malin Head. Down to the bog there now. They did Star Wars in Malin Head, and you wouldn't know that, like, if it was real. Like, are these blocks? These were parts of the fortress, obliterated. Crowpatrick Fortress, possibly obliterated. But everywhere Patrick went, it's now covered. That's for sure. So we'll go back, and once again we'll carry on. So Patrick's well in Drogheda town, a well in Drogheda town where Patrick opened a monastery and baptized people. So there's a well in Drogheda town. It's probably the fort of Drogheda town. We're not going back up to Drogheda right now. We're going to look at these. Loch Derg, Donegal. It's claimed that Patrick killed a large serpent on this lake and its blood turned the water red. And he did. The pilgrims go to Loch Derg and they do some fasting and praying. Loch Derg has some very, very rich mystery and history. Large serpent on the lake. It's an interesting one because in the map, one of the maps that I have, there is excellent pictures of the serpent. Where is it? Here it is. Let's get it up. So here we have this chap down here. So big serpent fish, but very cool. This map here is that we'll remember from previous episodes, but it shows all of the mounds, all of the mountains, and the ones with trees on are the mounds, and the ones without trees, the big ones, are the mountains. And so these are the big mega fortresses, and these are the smaller mega fortresses. And then you've got stars all over the place in the landscape. So these were raised up above the landscape. So these were all high up, a little bit high. They're all hills. These were all raised up above the landscape. This is after the flood. So all of these here. These are the areas that we're looking at. So Patrick up to Loch Derg. Which one is Loch Derg? Loch Nay, Loch Erne. Like, look at the lakes here. One of these is Loch Derg. This is Loch Derg, is it? Killybegs? No, that's the harbour. But once again, actually, like this, there's another map where this section here exists and it's a lake, and this goes up. Like, this is Killala here, the area of Killala. And just looking down, like here you see again all of that, all here. Like, these are all mega fortresses, I would reckon. As wild as that sounds, that is the latest wildness. I remember when I first heard about the mud flood, and I had the proposition that history was restarted in the last 200 or 300 years. My mind couldn't even comprehend it at the start, and then it just became normal. And this will be the same. Life goes on. And then there's something new, something crazier. Like, these are probably all little stars, I'd imagine. So that map there, where is to Patrick's house? So Patrick's well in Drogheda town. He opened a monastery and he baptized people. Let's have a look here in Drogheda town. Let's have a look at the old map instead of the new map for a minute. So Drogheda, at least this map doesn't have to load. Dundalk, Drogheda here. So all of these here, all above, these are all, anywhere there's little trees, these are all mega fortresses. Yeah, that's it. All the trees have mega fortresses under them. And for some reason, all of these guys were left alone in that war. This one's in the middle of it, so up in Louth, wherever. So this one here, this one is literally just on the outskirts, and it managed to survive. We might have a look at that at some stage. Where is that? Just on the border. So we were looking for St. Patrick there. What are we doing for time? Oh, we're up to 50 minutes already. Oh my God. So, St. Patrick, the man himself, hanging around this area. There's just too much. There's just too much to consider. There really is, and it's such a massive revelation. So I think that it's probably time to call this episode on 50 minutes. Good time to stop. We're looking at a landscape of stars, and we're looking at St. Patrick and the journeys that he took in this area. And in the next episode, we're going to have another look at a few more places that he visited. We're probably going to look at some wells along the way, I'd imagine. He's got a lot of churches dedicated to him. It was like he went in, took all the churches. He's associated with Cashel and Tipperary, the Rock of Cashel, a limestone escarpment, so it's up high on the land again. It's probably the edge of a star fort. It's a serious building. It's an abbey. It's got some Celtic crosses and some serious tech in there. The Rock of Cashel is an impressive piece of masonry. This guy's talking about a tour, is he? Where I got these from? I think I got this from some sort of an 10 places of Patrick. They do like a tour. Epic. Mowmeen in County Galway is another place that Patrick was a part of. West of the Shannon in the Mamun Turk Mountains, which are also, you'd assume, fortresses. The south of Connemara. So Connemara is an area of Ireland that looks like it's literally just been poured with concrete, and the concrete just poured out. So whatever they were mining in that area really did a lot of damage to the area when those forts blew, those fortifications or those wells. When those wells blew, it did some serious damage. Maybe each well had different stuff. Maybe like the bog wells, like the bogs, they got away easily. But what they were pulling out of the ground, maybe that was different than what was happening in, let's say, the areas that have a lot of stones in them. And maybe that's different from the areas that look like they've been literally concreted with liquid concrete. But the area of Connemara, I think that's where we'll pick it up next. And we'll hop down into Connemara and we'll just have a look at that landscape, because it is very, very barren and it's just unusual. It makes no sense, but it does make sense if you say it looks like somebody poured a gigantic amount of concrete all over that. That would be the burden. So with that, I'm going to leave part 2 there. It's been great fun. Hope you're enjoying it so far. I know there's a lot in it, but there is a lot to St. Patrick, and he got around. Man got around. So let's follow him, and hope you enjoyed. Think good thoughts. Thanks again. Hope you're enjoying it. Enjoy. Enjoyment is great, isn't it? It really is.